feel like Joe Rogan. It's like,
yeah, exactly.
What up, folks? We are live, hanging out here Friday morning, Friday afternoon. Give people a few minutes to join the stream. The socials are going out. I mean, it feels like a. At what point does
it's been a peaceful week, right?
At what point does the week equal big meme just no longer become? Does it just get played out? I feel like it just continues to feel more and more. You can tell by Dylan's face; he agrees as well. How are you doing, Peace?
Doing good.
You get a nice breath of fresh air before this.
Hydrated. Yeah, exactly. Did some sun eating.
Okay.
I'm grounded. Nah, yeah.
Get some minestrone in a good fresh air.
I wouldn't. I've got a Whole Foods cold pressed juice. It's the next best thing to minestrone.
Oh, nice. Yeah, Peace. Honestly, your message like 50 minutes ago when you were like, "I'm just gonna go take a couple of breaths before the show." I was like, "Oh, that's like breathing. Yeah, that's a great idea."
Oh yeah, critical.
I only allow myself to breathe in VR. I got to be on the meditation app and
nice
doing the whole thing. Right. Other than that, it's who does that these days?
It's a novel concept, that's for sure. I always feel like I get up and then I'm like right into things, and then it's like 3:00 and I go outside and I was like, oh, this would have been a nice thing to do in the morning.
Yeah,
it would have been a good move to go. All right, I think we're getting. Just retweet this thing and then we should go live. I think we got the chat warming up. We got a mint that's live on Farcaster for this episode. Probably a few minutes still left out there, but as you probably see in the chat, it's filling up nicely. And we got a good show today. I mean, we got a lot of fun stuff. So should we just do it, Peace? Should we hit the live button?
Yeah,
listen, baby.
I'm letting Yes to Crypto know that they can mint on pods.media. All right, hold up. Let me press this button.
Good morning to the fresh air breathers that are among us. Josh is hanging out in the jungle. It just looks very peaceful. We got, what is this, episode? Are we 17? Episode
right.
17 of Internet Explorers, the place just to come and hang out and figure out what's happened on the internet for the last week. Never a dull moment. Continues to pack it up. I like this. We got it looks like a light list here today, Josh, which means we're going to be able to just be very restful and at ease as we dive into the week. A novel experience for us this week. But how are you doing, my friend?
I'm great, man. I mean, this is what happens when we have 30 accelerator interviews this week, and keeping a pulse on Twitter and socials is hard. So I think, like always, I think there's a lot within each of these, but it'll be fun to have a little more breathing room maybe.
Well, it's kind of fun, right? Because generally we have like the broad worldview of what's happening, but this last week and into next week, we have sort of a look into what the future could look like. So I know we're going to talk a little bit about that today. Hello, Peace. Clicking buttons, your fingers warmed up.
Big time.
Well, perfect. That's good.
Yeah.
As you can see,
I'm actually just thinking about all the ways that I've like low key doxed on this stream. There's like it's pretty insane.
It's always the risk. You have to like just delete all the things off your like no tabs open, etc. Okay, so this is episode 17 of Internet Explorers. We're here live every Friday morning at 10 a.m. Pacific time, 1 p.m. Eastern, and other times around the world. I know some of you are in far off places. Probably many people in Europe are on their way to Europe right now. So if you're joining us from there, that's awesome. This episode is mintable on pods.media. You'll be able to do that over at live.seedclub.xyz. So if you're hanging out with us on, I don't know, LinkedIn, that 1 or 2 viewers that we have on LinkedIn, you can come over here. Same if you're one of those 10 viewers that's over on our Twitter stream right now, come over to live.seedclub.xyz. You can connect your account. You can get the episodes. You just want to keep doing that. It's a good way just to show your ongoing attention here, which is valuable in itself. We also have a whole bunch of episodes up on Zora. So if you want to go to see Zora/club.eth, you can see the whole back catalog. We're just going to continue to put media out on chain, create this place where people can continue to interact with it. There's some fun stuff planned for it moving forward. Hopefully stuff we get to talk about pretty soon. Is there anything else I need to start us off with here, Josh? I feel like we should just probably get into it. I mean, we got Dylan sitting here. I haven't even introduced him. It's kind of awkward before so maybe I'll just throw to you, and you can introduce our first topic and Dylan.
I will. Yeah, this is great. A great moment of serendipity because I guess like I'm just relentlessly tweeting about meme coins, and I think Dylan is very much like on the same page with me around their interestingness and I think the opportunity that they present and just like the ways to think about them that aren't just these pure kind of like speculative zero-sum games. So I've talked a few times, actually caught up in New York last week. And then, I mentioned we were very heads down in interviews this week. So weren't actually going to have a guest. And then like an hour ago, saw that you had just launched a new product. So perfect opportunity to bring you on. So yeah, man, maybe to start off, do you just want to give kind of a brief background on yourself, what Commonwealth is, and then maybe, we'll walk that into what you just launched today.
Definitely. I mean, first, thanks for having me on. I'm glad that I was furiously like on TG and just like, able to connect then again. But that's I feel like what on-chain is all about, right? Just gotta be real time and on your game. Also, just kind of side note, like it's so funny to be, I've been on Unlonely before, but like seeing kind of like myself get stalked or like the stuff is just like, it's a very surreal kind of experience, but it's cool. And see the reflection, but digression. So Dylan, founder of Common. So we actually just rebranded. We'll have more on that next week. At the beginning of the day, I got in crypto back in 2013. I shed a tear when Bitcoin ETF kind of like actually was approved and stuff. It's been a long time coming. I got interested just when just talking about coordination. Magic internet money was kind of cool, but like really just like talking and really like incentive aligned with folks around the globe was really the thing that interested me. Fast forward. So we first started as a DAO tool, totally. So log in with your wallet, long form discussions, and then on-chain voting. But governance is at the bottom of the funnel. And so we wanted to make sure that it's a little bit more inclusive. So the easiest way, I think, on the personal tweet that I had is like, it's subreddits with meme coins, essentially. So when you create a community, you should be able to, this is always nerve-wracking. Just go through and sign in and create a community, and you'll have a base transaction, and you'll be able to create a community with a token attached to it. Just a side note, sorry on this. Well, we're having we can link more alpha. So next week we're actually going live with the new domain and new landing page. So this is all old and legacy now. So super excited. But yeah, it's been a hell of a week, and lots more to go this weekend and next week.
Nice.
So that's awesome.
We can get it now to get that Commonwealth Classic.
Oh yeah. We gotta do a ceremonial mint. That's actually we have. So you saw the loading cow. Sadly, I think last year when we were really onboarding like a ton of different DAOs, and especially across the globe, I think our users had a little bit of PTSD just because like it kind of taunts you when it goes back and forth. So lots of legacy and ceremonial things that we can do. Yeah.
Peace is a big fan of the classic of anything. So
yeah.
All right. Amazing.
Yeah, Dylan, I'm curious so you guys have some pretty big partners and, solid like user kind of usage numbers on kind of your core, like governance, governance forum, governance tooling. I think 1inch, maybe a few other kind of big protocols and DAOs are using you. I'm curious, what did you guys not see there or what did you see there that got you to kind of take this new position in integrating meme coins or community stake into the product?
Yeah. So I think like maybe number one is like communities are definitely more than just like governance, kind of alluding to that, but like forums as like a form factor are still really great for, serious things, fun things. And of course, Reddit is always the canonical example. kind of like by the numbers, like a $250,000 total across a bunch of different communities, and like we've been weighted towards governance. I don't know, like when every community that you see in Discord or, even on the Purple App Park, Warpcast right now, like there's fun things, serious things talked about in channels, right? So it's not mutually exclusive. So just wanting to lean into that and also, just be more inclusive to people getting started.
I mean, I like how you framed it, saying governance is at the bottom of the funnel. And I think that's like a really important insight that I think, we've had. Clearly you've had, I think a lot of others are sort of coming around to, and often it's kind of talked about in around, I think it was maybe driven by the idea of like governance tokens being the meta 18 months ago, two years ago. And it's kind of funny just to think about how much of what we build and what we talk about is kind of driven by stuff that's actually really impacted by strange things, right? Like regulation, or just like, a token launch that works, and then people sort of copy paste quite a bit. I know a lot of the sort of frame a lot of our rethinking around like, why are tokens valuable? Why are people wanting to engage? What's the experience people want to have? It actually moves away from governance and more into attention. And I think a big part of like the interest we have in this category is just a recognition that the scarce and valuable asset on the internet today is attention. Clearly, it's not something that we come up with. It's a well discussed thing, and also the driving force behind like the most valuable businesses on the internet. So I think that this sort of idea that continues to float in the ether, and I think we've talked about recently of sort of attention networks, is one that I continue to have a ton of energy for. And I think it's like a really important narrative or meta to put out. We've seen that as a core part of a lot of the conversations we've had with teams in our portfolio and in our network. And so I'm curious, maybe my assumption here is that a lot of that thinking has gone into this product, but I wonder if you can riff on that a bit.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, I think the riff on that literally in a line that I don't know when we said it internally was like, we don't want to be an everything app. We'd rather be an everywhere protocol. And so just like making sure that because, the communities each have like a protocol, I guess like version of what unites them. So, whether it's an ERC20, an NFT, or meme coins, maybe you can call them a subset of a type of token. That's like how we want that to be reflected, just because like your community is everywhere. And I mean, therefore attention goes everywhere. The one other thing that to tie the loop there is like, even within a community, like governance is like a specific type of attention, right? Like we feel like we got to be really deliberate about that. Memes takes another type of creativity, and like that is also spread across a bunch of different channels. And so mixing and matching, like, okay, what's the spaces, the containers for the software so that these ideas can flow? And then second, like, what are the incentives that actually drive the type of content or attention that we want? It gets really deep and fractal. So I don't know, that's the kind of riff there.
Yeah, because I think that last point is the big one, because I still have a general unease around meme coins, at least in how they're, I think, framed more generally, and it's because most of them to this date have felt very zero sum, right? It's purely speculation, and I think that there's embedded in our interest around these is the same thing that was sort of embedded in our early exploration of social tokens and NFTs and DAOs. It's this pursuit of what are the mechanisms that turn these from purely just attention, values of attention, which I think some win, like a very small percentage break out. You have your Dogecoins, your Shibas, your Bonks, etc., and the vast majority lose, and people kind of get left into one that has sort of an ongoing existence, right? Like is driving value back, can sustain itself into the future. And I think a lot of people are sort of devaluing meme coins because they don't see what that thing is right now. And I think my take, and I'm interested in yours, is that that's actually the right place for us to focus our attention right now. And I have a deep faith that we'll be able to figure that out and have seen meaningful progress in that in many ecosystems so far. I'm curious if you have sort of thoughts along those lines.
I mean, actually, I'm so glad that we're doing this, just because again, there's like, in terms of like, when you talked about, two things I kind of want to connect is like when you talked about like the meta in term, and like how governance was kind of the meta, well, even like if we want to call meta like a category or a type of meme, it's like a thing that we're all thinking, right? And then I think like in the tweet thread, but actually just posted in the chat, like how Moore's law is like a meme, right? And so that's like one that has really positive externalities, and it's not just like a dog coin that, I mean, it brings joy to, well, basically everyone. But you know, I kind of, and sorry, I'm kind of like going on tangents here, but like when there's like the startup thing is like, oh, you got to get 100 million revenue. You can do that with like like 10 really high value customers, or like something that's like the lowest common denominator for everyone. That kind of same type of positive externalities for memes also plays out. And so you can have Moore's law, super, super important. And like you said, just making sure that actionable things can actually happen so that that positive externality can get like made. That's hopefully what we're building the product towards. Actionable small things that make the meme a reality, whatever it is.
Yeah, we had the party DAO crew come on a couple of weeks ago. They're building rooms, which I think is maybe just like a different take on kind of a similar, you know, edge you're pushing on. But they, you know, they very much have this perspective that like, you know, I think there's a lot of value in like the instigation of DAOs or things that look like DAOs to be started for like less serious reasons, but then suddenly you have a bunch of people coordinating around something they care about. There's like, you know, shared values and purpose that are emerging. And then maybe there's some like emission of value from, I don't know, the trading of the token or something that the community is doing that then suddenly they can figure out what to do with. And then you just have the flywheel spinning of like, you know, you have this siren call, people are coming, you have more value being created, you can actually do stuff with it, which attracts more people. And then I think you have kind of this like positive sum flywheel potentially emerging. Is that kind of how you see this as well? Like, is this a starting point, a different starting point almost for DAOs and like a eventual more serious governance, or is this just subreddits with meme coins?
I mean, first, mad respect to John and the whole team there. Love them. And I think actually what you said, like, is it feels like maybe this is like a thesis that we hold internally, but hopefully rings true. Is like there's really two ways to start something that can go big. Maybe it's like with your homies and like your squad, and that's like the group chat version. Or it's like, oh, you're aligned with just like this interest, and like maybe it's more diffuse and stuff like that. So I don't want to say default closed versus open, but definitely group chat or forum, really, if we're talking about form factors. I do think they evolve towards the point, well, yeah, we really want like real things to get started. So both the protocols should interoperate. Attention should go between those two things because, well, group chats have different energies. And that's really, really important to make sure that's captured. And then more specifically for our product, like definitely like, I think maybe a tagline version is like subreddits with meme coins is like the first step down the funnel from like, 1,000 true fans. And it's been riffed on so many times. Like we're thinking about like 100 on-chain owners every single week. And then, okay, what's the next step? What's the, thing that you need 10 of every single week? And then what's the thing you need 1 of? And kind of gets to the sprint cycle where, well, yeah, we run on weekly sprints here. Everyone does bi-weekly or whatever. That drives the meme and makes it, move forward. So contest bounties, stuff from Boost, from Joke Race, all those things like play into it. Yeah, we're excited.
So when does this go live? Next week?
This is technically live today. Super guarded. I think we're like half the cap in. And then, yeah, we'll be out at ETH Denver. And then I think we'll really let people go in. We're shipping mobile. I'll just say the things right now. We're shipping mobile PWA next week. We're just making it super easy for the discovery experience. There's so many like small things, like even like looking at it on screens. Like I don't know what new communities got started, stuff like that we want to really ship before we hit it. But yeah, super live on Monday and Tuesday next week. Yeah.
Love it, man. Well, I love having you on to sort of announce it and then to be able to just, without even having to say anything, tease out more alpha from you. It's just the natural way of being here it's a great thing. So cool, man. Well, I wish you the best. Safe travels to Denver. If you guys are doing anything in Denver, let us know. People keep being like, "Oh, are you going to be there?" And no, we're not going to be at ETH Denver this year. I'm not getting COVID 3 times in a row. Not going to happen. but there's so much stuff happening there. So we'd love to connect folks if that is of interest. But yeah, thanks for hanging out with us today, man.
Hey, thank you for having me. All right.
See you, dude.
See ya.
Take care.
I love that.
Cool.
Live today, super live on Monday.
I identify with that deeply.
I do too. I do too. Sounds like a lot of our launches. Yeah.
Yeah. Cool. Yeah, it's exciting to see. You know, we're pretty big on this like consumer crypto thing, which is I continue just to define as not infrastructure. And also, I'm just so deeply appreciative of people who've been building for so long to give the tools that are going to enable. You know, I think just at the beginning of C Club, we wouldn't have been able to go do the things that we did if people hadn't built the tools that would allow us to come and just kind of click buttons and push things live rather than having to do a whole deep development cycle on stuff. And so that just seems like we have more and more and more and more tools today to go do that, which generally is a precursor to people doing cool things with it. So start to see it.
Also just love people that have been building towards like the same vision or in like the same problem space, but are just like very reactive or like flexible around the current metas, right? Like they, you know, he's interested in using crypto as like human coordination, and that was governance, you know, a year or two ago, and now he's recognizing that a lot of that kind of like coordination and community energy is shifting to, you know, potentially meme coins or things that look like them. And
well, they just start to evolve in their definitions too. I think that's people. It's like if you're like right in the middle of a thing and you can start to see how people are pushing at the edges, you can start to see like a thing that maybe wasn't super appealing start to take on some really appealing characteristics. And I think that's really the feeling that we have in this sort of meme space. It's not this like, you know, Telegram bot trading, spin up a bunch that'll scam you, rug pulley stuff. Like clearly that's unappealing and not something I would ever want to be associated with. But that's not what we're seeing. We're seeing some really interesting applications of it. And maybe that's a good sort of segue into our next segment here.
Yeah, 100%. Let's jump into it. So I guess applications closed end of last week, and this week have just been both furiously reviewing the hundreds of applications we received, and I think we did a first batch of, I don't even know what the number was, let's say 25 to 30 interviews. So it's been a very busy week. I think I don't know, anytime we get into this period, I just remember how huge of a privilege it is to just get to tap into the brains of this many early stage consumer crypto founders in like this dense of a period. And you just like so quickly get just like this really great sense of what's coming down the pipes. So I figured it'd be worth just spending some time kind of like reflecting on, you know, the applications we've seen, conversations we've had. I think I kind of like bubbled up some like clear, like big categories we're seeing a bunch of energy around. But yeah, maybe I'll throw it to you first just to get your reflections on the week.
I mean, we get to see around corners through these processes. You know, it's kind of like a very privileged position, as you mentioned, to be that I think, you know, a lot of VCs sort of sit in as they get new things pitched them quite often. You know, accelerator applications give us like a very dense period of that alongside the other work that we do. So it's sort of like constant exploring and understanding what might be coming next, and then like a very intense moment of seeing that. And I just feel like the learning cycles that come off of that are just insane. And it just continues to remind me that we just have such an opportunity to continue to share that stuff. And it's in these moments when we feel like we have the least amount of bandwidth and, you know, opportunity to do that we probably need to go do it the most, which is maybe an intractable challenge at certain points. Attention is limited, hours in the day are limited. I still want to go breathe fresh air, but yeah, I totally agree. It's really exciting to see. And I think I put up a video from our last live stream just on the Consumer Crypto Foraster channel, just talking about this little baby category called consumer crypto that is maybe awkwardly defined. It's actually not that small, but it still feels very small because people are, I think, maybe not seeing the opportunity there just yet. You know, investors are still maybe a little bit slow to step into it, but it just feels, I mean, it's impossible to have the types of conversations we had this week and not feel the inevitability of this. We can see if we can pronounce words today. And I think, we'd love to talk about some of the themes. I also think there's sort of like this sort of meta thing that's very unique to C Club here, in that, you know, we've really ran our first 5 batches it was still a very iterative way, but it was on a very different model, right? It was this token swap model and this idea of sort of aligning connections and sort of ownership with other communities, and the belief was that most of these communities would have tokens, and that would be sort of how you align attention, and that everybody would sort of have a stake through that. And I think over the last 2 years, we sort of have seen like the likelihood that teams, and maybe even the reason for teams to go issue tokens early on, it decreased, and moved into much more of a traditional sort of venture model, and like the venture markets kind of came to it. And so when we sort of saw and reframed our opportunity in consumer crypto at the beginning of last year, it also came with a different model of actually making financial contributions to teams through that. And it's required us to sort of I think shift our focus a little bit in ways that I think, from seeing some of the broader applications, are maybe not quite obvious yet. And it is one into like we were able to be a lot more experimental with the token swap model, as there was no direct outlay of capital that was going into those teams. And I think now, as we both sort of stepped into this bigger category, and there's capital that's on the line here, has really forced us to, and I think in a very powerful way, look for really big opportunities. And I think there's still a ton of room for us to be experimental, and definitely some of the teams we're talking to, if we get to work with them, are going to twist people's minds in wonderful ways. But I think a lot of my sort of reflection on reviewing applications this batch was one of really seeing that there's, we have made that shift. I think a focus has been driven by business models, it's been driven by market forces, and so that's saying, okay, well, we need to see really big opportunities here. We need to see the potential of these category defining products emerging from it. And I think what's really great to see is that there isn't a shortage of those types of things that are coming through. But I'd say that's probably the biggest dividing line in the sand in my mind was, that where once our ability to sort of be even further on the edges and take even more exploratory bets, if you will, there's this sort of scale of potential now that's driving a lot of the decision making.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, I think we're creating other buckets for the weirder experimental stuff. I think it's cool to just see. I think a lot of that too is just like the stage of the culture, the state of the infrastructure. It's just like attracting, like the thing you could do 2 years ago in consumer was just like coordinate around a token, right? So we saw a lot of just kind of communities, DAOs, like the social token, all the stuff that we'd been preaching a couple years ago emerged. And then now we're at the point where like the tooling we have, the like social infrastructure we have, like Foraster, all this stuff is like attracting just like new waves of entrepreneurs that were potentially like less ideologically here, and now just seeing that this is just like a great place to go build a company or startup or protocol.
Well, what is consumer crypto? It's a great question. Absolutely great question.
I mean, the whole time piece of scrolling here, I was like, how sick is it that we can just have a consumer crypto channel and just like condense all this energy there versus having to just like sort through all the crap on Twitter. It's so great.
Discord, good.
Or Discord. Oh God.
Yeah.
But yeah. I think like to bubble up a few of the categories we've seen, I think like the overwhelmingly dominant one really is Foraster. I think both a measure of how much energy and interest there is there. Also, we were very intentional, like we're deeply interested in what's happening there and the possibilities and opportunities that are emerging from there. So, we're intentional to be loud that we wanted to see, applications for people that are building there. But I tweeted or casted this morning, very rough estimate, but I would say that like, 25% probably of our applications of hundreds of applications are in some way are like directly building to serve Foraster, obviously with like much bigger plans or thinking about it as, a wedge and go to market in many cases. But, it's capturing the hearts and minds of early stage consumer crypto builders. So I think we're seeing that across like a bunch of applications for new clients with kind of different takes that work or going after different opportunities than WarpClass will. Ad networks, headless marketplaces are kind of a big one. Lots of interest in frames and frame tooling and kind of, no code, more kind of consumer centric no code opportunities there, and kind of a bunch more. Oh,
Jesus, peace. What?
Sorry, we'll probably get demonetized on YouTube now.
No, don't worry, we're demonetized already. Already.
It's actually surprising that's maybe our first bit of nudity on Internet Explorers.
I like that he took the time to like it too. This is
it's fine art. It was fine art.
It is. It's your art history thing. I mean, I think the Foraster thing is interesting because I think that I would say that it's like the vast majority of applicants that are coming through are very active on Farcaster, and to me, that's the main insight, right? People are seeing this as sort of a Schelling point for building. We got Jesse Pollock on the base channel up here. Like Coinbase is making a big bet on being active there. Like it's very clearly a place where, where builders were in sort of these sort of, I guess, either on Twitter, but most likely in Discords before. Right now, they are on Farcaster, and that was really the reason I think the opportunity we saw to go be loud. And I think you're right. There's a sort of subset that are running at Farcaster adjacent or things that are building on that protocol. I think it's going to be interesting to see where value flows there. I think we've had this opportunity to talk to a number of teams. I'd say that the TLDR is like a lot of people are very not eager to go compete with Warpcast as sort of building other clients. And I think there's sort of questions around whether there is a ton of value to build at the client level. I think there's a couple interesting niches that we've seen come up that maybe give me some excitement around it. But I think what's really interesting is seeing how people are really using this social layer in the same way that they use sort of, Ethereum is like the base security layer for launching assets. People are seeing Farcaster as sort of like the social layer for launching attention. And the intersection of those two, I think, is going to be really interesting. And we've seen a number of teams kind of running at that.
Yeah, totally. I think I saw today that Pearl launched their like mobile product, but I think that's just like a great case study on like leveraging the attention and distribution and social context of Farcaster and then stepping that into a product and just like funneling a bunch of that attention into it.
Well, and we see these sort of stages, right? Like at one point it was like the unbundling of Craigslist, right? So you go build marketplaces just by taking a major category on Craigslist and building a better experience, bringing some trust into it. Greg Eisenberg's been on the entire podcast circuit 2 years ago or last year talking about the unbundling of Reddit, right? This idea of community-led businesses, et cetera. So I guess we'll see similar things here as these channels really start to capture a bunch of attention. There's going to be interesting product opportunities to build on top of it. I think DGen is probably like the most obvious one right now. We're probably the most sort of forward thinking around how to go do that. And I think they've announced a fundraise earlier this week and sort of positioning themselves to do that. So I would expect to see more of that as well. It's a petri dish worth paying attention to.
Absolutely. Cool. Yeah. The second, I have a few more. I mean, meme coins, obviously. I think, again, my like relentless shilling of the huge opportunity in building new products and experiences on top of them, I think was well received. But we're seeing a lot of cool, like, I don't know, meme coin centric or meme coin adjacent products, whether it's trading products or launch pads or games or like vertical specific social products that are leveraging them, climate action movements that are seeing their potential and power, streetwear brands, live streaming products. Like, I think they're like, people are just starting to experiment with integrating, these assets into a bunch of other things that are working or have kind of like proven business models or opportunities. So I think that's cool. We can probably like fly past that because we could talk about it forever.
All the time.
I think maybe what we could spend a little bit of time on is consumer AI, because we've been having some pretty interesting conversations around that. And I think the kind of like public perception or like the dominant meta within AI it's all infrastructure, it's all tooling. And I think, scrolling through our applications this morning, we have a ton of consumer AI plays in here, whether it's AI powered games, AI powered trading bots, we have virtual influencers, autonomous agent platforms. We were talking about subjective oracles, IP, obviously like IP creation is a big one. So I think pretty excited by what we're seeing there.
I mean, I think the strongest meme coins in crypto right now are all these AI tokens that are out there that are pre-product and just capturing. I mean, I haven't even looked at the charts, but I think they pumped over the last week. So again, I just continue to. I think everything's meme coins at some level, especially if you're kind of pre-product or even in early stages of product. So I think that's really where a lot of that attention is right now. Yeah, I mean, what we see, right, is when tools become accessible to folks, new creation happens and new value can be created. And so whether that's sort of like, cloud computing into SaaS products, or I think like, just seeing the number of protocols that have been developed in crypto and how much easier it is for people to sort of tie together these sort of backends as a service, these protocols into new products, and not need to do that sort of that deep protocol development. It just really, I think, reduces the cost and to actually go build things. And I think it starts putting like the true value being in the ability to build really compelling experiences that, make people want to be a part of them. And I think that's, you can, a lot of the talk around AI outside of like the doom or hype piece, I think is this sort of question of like, where does value flow in a world of infinite creativity? And I think we've just been on this like steady path of progress towards the reduction in cost to go create more and more things. So, whether that was just media in the 2010s and now it's into, art, but it's also into software. And so I think those are trends that are ultimately going to be driving more and more value towards the founders that are really able to build brands, to build movements, to build the sense of world building, I think, around it. And so the AI applications that we're seeing that I think are exciting me the most are the ones that are kind of running at that, like making use of these super powerful tools that continue to be developed and then have an interesting angle and a way to kind of go build a moat of attention and belief around these. And of course, there's some sort of more, I actually think that it's through doing that there also becomes new product opportunities. And that it's, like we talked about Foraster earlier, Dan's got this whole post of protocol-led development, which is basically saying, do the protocol, but you got to own the app experience first as well. And I think we're likely will see more and more of that. And we've seen that path already, right? Talking to teams that built the app and are like, well, I mean, we had Brian on last week, right? He's like, I built this protocol. Inevitable thing is for us to go do an L2 on top of it, which is sort of like a movement deeper down into the infrastructure stack. So,
yeah, cool. Yeah, maybe the last one will bubble up is payments, and I find this one is a pretty interesting one because it's one of those just clear crypto use cases that is going to have a massive winner or maybe a few massive winners. And yeah, we're seeing some applications that are taking a few different swings at it. I think the hard thing to see here is like it's going to be a brutally competitive market, and and most of the approaches they're like pretty subtly differentiated, right? It's like they're all going after this like global peer-to-peer payments market. So I think finding the winners or understanding like what approaches are going to win, or really like, reading applications that are all building towards these global payments and trying to like really see the subtleties in their approaches is pretty hard.
Yeah, that's a tough one for me as well. Like you really need to have a strong wedge into the market, and like it is such an obvious category, and also, I mean, we see just a lot of really well-funded teams struggle to do it because of the regulatory burden that comes with it, et cetera. So I wonder if that is sort of like a startup's game right now, or if there's sort of some incumbents that are well positioned to go do that. I like to hope there's new angles in it. But I think like the big thing there is like that is some core infrastructure that will really lead to new types of things being built on top of it. It'll be interesting to see what kind of gets excited. I mean, I think USV just did a big investment into Code coming from the Kik ecosystem, the former founder of Kik. That's really coming at it from a pure payments perspective. Obviously, PayPal has really struggled, I think, to get a lot of traction in it. We have Beam with some, or no, it's not Beam. What's the off ramp that's excuse me. Then we also have the ecosystem. So lots of stuff happening there.
Yeah, and it's hard because you're like ultimately you're competing with like wallets and other products too, right? Like it's pretty trivial for me to just send you money on crypto rails if I want to. Like I can just open my wallet and send money to your ENS, right? So like figuring out like you're probably going to need, again, we go back to like, right, probably like the attention network or like the brand network and like the social context is the thing that will actually like unlock the opportunity for this.
I think it's really a bet on the fact that there are far more people not onboarded, not in crypto, that don't have crypto wallets, and there are that do. Right. And so do you have a wedge into capturing that new set of attention? And I think important to note, like the Tron ecosystem is huge because they have done that work in developing nations. So there's clearly gaps in the world out there. This sort of banking the unbanked has been the longest meme in crypto, and I think it's been probably the least well served for a number of reasons. But I think there is like a broad middle class of potential users out there. But I mean, my guess is like things like Stripe start to play in this space, right? Like it just makes a ton of sense eventually to rip out the banks and the interchange fees, et cetera, and just do that. Like, imagine what happens if Apple Pay, started stepping into payments. Is that crypto likely there? Probably not. But like, they have, like, go buy, Square, right? Like, Apple plus Square just becomes this juggernaut, and probably only isn't happening because of fears around regulatory issues, et cetera. So yeah, I wouldn't want to.
Or Twitter. We know Elon's going to do something here. We'll see.
We'll
cool.
see.
Yeah. So I mean, there's going to be something. So yeah, these are obviously just a few of the categories we're seeing, and I think we just continue to be like the most captivated by the ones that I just couldn't even begin to categorize, or like,
I think
or redefine
this is actually
categories in our mind.
Pieces on Fabric. This is one that I think is actually super interesting. It has a bit of an interesting angle to it. So Hypersub is kind of like a Patreon, Web3 Patreon, but their subscription token protocol is actually really interesting in it, and they're leveraging referral rewards in an interesting way. So you can basically say, just use Hypersub, but you can imagine this being like a thing you could plug into any checkout flow, where you set a pool aside of whatever percentage of the subscription revenue goes into a referral pool. And that pool is actually distributed based on how long somebody has been subscribed to the newsletter, the Patreon, whatever, the Hypersub. And so it kind of creates this like reason to be early. It creates a reason to tell your friends. It creates a reason to be consistent. And so I think like it's almost like this sort of embedded protocol reward, so that you can put in with just like one line of code into any subscription flow, that I think is kind of interesting. So there's some edges there that I think are definitely worth pushing.
Cool.
A new form of hodl tech.
There you go.
Hodl tech. It's a pretty good company name. Hodl.tech.
I think non-linear. You should go cast it non-linear on Warpcast with that suggestion. It's a good brand.
Love it.
All right, cool. Yeah, let's move on. So yeah, another thing I think that really jumps out at us while we review applications and interview teams is just kind of the like discrepancy between people who have pitched before and the people who haven't. Like, it's presenting an opportunity and pitching in a compelling way is very hard. But I think from our perspective, when we're sitting here seeing so many applications, it's like truly like presenting and packaging the opportunity you're building on in a compelling way is really the difference between like standing out and kind of blending into the sea of noise. So yeah, I think every time we do this, we have intentions to go do something like in a lot more depth here, and create content and hold space to really prepare people to do this better. But yeah, figured it'd be useful to just spend a couple minutes kind of sharing maybe the few things that are top of mind to help people really improve the way they pitch.
Yeah, I was thinking on this earlier today, and I think that the biggest delta is between somebody who's able to I mean, we have a very short period of time with folks, and I think our interviews are scheduled for 20 minutes, but really even in that first 5 minutes, it becomes pretty clear whether something is compelling or not. And I think the ability to put a concise and clear vision on the table in under 5 minutes is by far the most important thing. And I think that what I see is there's, and I was trying to think, okay, what's the root of that challenge? And I think the root of that challenge is people get stuck in our own little filter bubbles, whether that's our own brains or that's with our partners. We're all guilty of this, right? We have sort of shorthands. Maybe we've all drank the Kool-Aid. We have a bunch of assumptions baked into a story, a narrative, a pitch that we tell. And I think the best way to break that down is to go talk to people who are not in that little bubble, whether that's your head or that's in your team. Because what we'll often see is people sort of dancing around what the core idea is, and we're not having confidence or a conciseness in that core idea, and they start to add additional pieces on top of it, and it just devalues the core side. So we find ourselves usually in like last 10 minutes of conversations, almost trying to pull out those pieces and like format them in a way that makes more sense. I mean, but I think for us, like when making decisions on teams, like the last thing that I want to do is put a vision into somebody's hands, right? Like the tight alignment and the ability to communicate that opportunity clearly, and the conviction in around it is very, very much what we're looking for here. And so like if we're unable to have that experience in the first 5 minutes, it's very likely that we're going to get to that in the last 10 minutes. And really I start to shift over to like, okay, how can we just be helpful here to these founders so they can leave it with at least some more insight and effectiveness in how they go and pursue those ideas. So to me, that's the thing. I think it's just like the best advice for building product is go talk to your customers. The best advice for doing a pitch is go talk to folks who are not in your head or in your team. And it's actually both those things that are ultimately going to be required, right? Like if you are not talking to customers, you're not going to be able to go put a compelling opportunity on the table. The second order effect of that is like, okay, if you think you have a really compelling narrative, go gut check that with 10 friends. And ideally it's people who don't even like you that much because, they might just say nice things to you. So I would say that's the biggest piece of advice I have.
Yeah, it's definitely a huge one. I think another one, or maybe two other ones. One is just like be focused. Like I think maybe it's related to conciseness, but you talking about like this expansiveness of problems you could potentially solve with the thing that you're building is actually like it's not helpful because it gets us into a state where we just can't see your path to actually getting there versus the being very focused on the core opportunity, the core problem that you think you need to solve, and have very clear kind of short-term ambitious milestones that you think you can go hit against that problem. Like that makes it much, I think really like what we want to see is be able to like imagine you in the accelerator and us working week to week with each other and really being able to make a ton of progress towards something that we're all excited about. And having too big of a problem space like isn't helpful.
Yeah, I think people get stuck in all the potentials that could exist out there, and I think it's very exciting. And I think that's also something that we look for. I think it's unlikely that somebody's going to come with a concept or an idea that doesn't just change drastically as it hits the market and starts touching people. But I think that the way that shows up in really strong interviews is like a clear focused opportunity that once we get that, the conversation can start to shift to the potentials that start to emerge around that. But I think if you're unable to kind of get that first part in and sort of have like an understanding of what the wedge or the anchor is, or like the gap you see in the world, we're just unable to kind of get into that. Like there isn't sort of a launch pad or a foundation to jump off of into future potentials.
Yeah, totally. I think that the wedge is actually a really important piece there. I think, there's a tendency for people to want to talk about like the biggest possible manifestation of the market that they're building towards. And, hear a lot of people say, they're abstracting crypto away so they can go after the mass market. But that's way less interesting to us than having this like clear wedge, serving crypto natives, having like a pretty like an obvious path to meaningful usage that we can go build alongside and then grow or scale from this like position of power.
And I think it's important. It's not just crypto natives, because I've seen some compelling pitches that are going after that sort of yet to be in crypto market, right. But they start with a very clear wedge as well. Like the idea of onboarding the next billion people or tapping into the mainstream market. There's just a billion open question marks around that, and obviously it's a big opportunity. But like here is this way and this user behavior and this progress that we've made that is actually resonating with those folks. Becomes a very different sort of framing for, and seeing that big market that could potentially be there and maybe has some risk associated with it is actually becomes very compelling through that lens.
I'm not in those combos, but I am always skeptical when I hear stuff like that, because I think people forget how extremely easy it is to create an account with 0 ETH on Rainbow or Uniswap's app or probably MetaMask. I haven't used that in a while, but it's actually not a crazy challenge to make an account with no money. It's attracting the ones with money that find it useful. That's the tricky part.
Get people to pay you money. Kind of important.
That is important. All right, cool. Let's move on to consumer.
I think my takeaway here is like, I would love to mental note. We need to go do more around this. Like there's so much great advice on how to pitch well out there. Like we don't even need to regurgitate it, but just maybe repackaging it in a way that makes sense is a worthwhile thing for us to go do.
Yeah,
so if you have good insights there, we'll send them our way and we can bundle them up into a post for next time.
Yeah, I love it. I think we've long wanted to do like public public pitches or public deck feedback or public memo feedback. I think doing something like that would be fun too.
And actually, call it on memos. Memos are a really useful tool here. Decks you can kind of get lost in and be very not specific in, and have a whole bunch of embedded assumptions in. You have to put it down into a narrative in a way that when somebody reads a page or page and a half, that things need to follow logically. At the very least, that's a very useful thought process or experiment for people. So I love memos. Big fan.
Yeah, we do like memos. Nice. So yeah, let's move on to consumer InfoWars. This is a funny one. I think when Cheryl tweeted this category, the Privy team hit me up. They're like, wars. So I apologize for the aggressive language potentially, but
it's the right language.
It's the right language.
Tell me these people aren't at, I mean, come on. Yeah.
You're at war, sir. Yeah, so I think
crypto, we don't do wars in crypto. We just subtly compete aggressively behind the scenes. Like, that's it. Come on, let's just be honest about it here. Yeah.
So yeah, I think there are like a few clear points of like immense leverage in the consumer crypto stack where attention, data, or liquidity are going to get aggregated. And I think we have already seen a bunch of competition around these points of leverage over the past year. And I think like looking forward to the next year. What is Feast doing here?
This is consumer crypto wars, right?
Oh, I love it. Looking forward to the next year. I think it's just really gonna heat up, and the winners that kind of come out the other side of these battles, I think are going to be sitting on massive opportunities. So I think just want to kind of highlight a few of these. So one of them is obviously the social graph and like being the place that people want to nurture and build broad reputation, status, and audience on. I think Lens and Farcaster have been battling it out pretty hard for the past couple of years. Seems like Farcaster's kind of pulling away right now. Most crypto products with social ambitions or natively integrating Farcaster, there's this bustling developer scene that are building companies to serve the needs of this Farcaster ecosystem. And I think, here there are like immense network effects, right? So I think competing, if Farcaster is truly pulling away, I think competing with them is going to get increasingly difficult, assuming, an open social graph continues being, a thing people want to build on and integrate with. So I think that's one. The second one is really these like wealth aggregation points. I just kind of pencil them in as, so that I think that's mostly wallets right now. I don't really see any strong network effects here. And I think that's why we see a pretty fragmented market. I think that'll continue. Not sure, who knows, we'll see. But really like the one that I wanted to dive into is the one that's kind of changed the most and probably the most interesting right now is being the port of entry into crypto. So this is, Coinbase has dominated this for years, right? As trading was the dominant use case. People would start just slinging coins on Coinbase on their centralized exchange. And then, eventually if they wanted to get, deeper into the on-chain world, they would kind of graduate off that, but like likely still using the Coinbase wallet, right? So Coinbase could be the port of entry, build this brand affinity and kind of, maintain this relationship with users. And I think we're seeing how quickly the world is changing from like exchanges potentially being the entry point for a lot of people to apps actually being the entry point to a lot of people. And, this is putting these like crypto native authentication and embedded wallet providers in this really powerful position. So I think, Privy is probably the leader in this right now, Third Web, Dynamic, and I'm sure some others are competing, but there's this kind of battle for becoming kind of like the base user profile layer across all products, which is this like massive opportunity that didn't even exist in Web 2, right? Because you could pretty easily see from there them stepping into like fiat on and off ramps and swaps and all this other stuff that other kind of categories dominate right now, but like maybe not for the foreseeable future if embedded wallets continue being as important as they are now and apps continue being the entry point into this world. So I think we know Coinbase is intimately aware of what's happening in here and potentially worried about it, but yeah.
I think that what's interesting is sort of like, yeah, so it's a lot of people are being, having their first experiences with these sort of embedded wallets today. But I think Farcaster is actually a really interesting piece to bring on the table here as well, where, what we're seeing here is sort of like the sign in with Farcaster. And so we say, okay, centralized exchanges being like the first port of entry. Now we can say, embedded wallets are kind of, competing for that as well. I think Farcaster is competing alongside them. And, imagine what happens when the sign in with Foraster is the thing that replaces the sign in with Twitter, and users start to grow there, and you have a wallet connected. Like, does Foraster start to become kind of like a pseudo wallet itself? I don't know how that ultimately plays out, but I think what we'll see is a lot of either acquisitions along these lines. I think we'll see a lot of teams sort of taking bets on where that ultimately goes. I think we'll see builders right now are really defaulting to using these tools because they're just easy and off the shelf to go do. But I think they're pretty fickle ultimately, and we want to use the thing that's going to have like the most network effects associated with it. I think the idea of kind of having all of my eggs either as a user or as a builder and bundled up in an embedded wallet is one that I would be really putting a lot of thought into. But I think at the same time, like we talked about wallets, like, are there network effects around MetaMask? I mean, yeah, clearly it's maybe not like in the same way where that like around a social network, but clearly that sort of this brand has been pretty dominant. And once you sort of are set up there, the likelihood you're going to go somewhere else as your main wallet, or at least it's going to continue to be a part of it because there's actually meaningful switching costs. So
yeah,
I don't know, it's a fragmented sort of strategic landscape that's going to be really interesting to see how, specifically looking at how the big players play this, either through acquisitions or through integrations or through partnerships, etc. So I'd pay attention to that.
Yeah, 100%. Okay, cool. Let's move over to crypto AI. I think we can be pretty quick on this one. It was just another massive week for AI, and just wanted to like consolidate some news around it. So I think, on the show last week, I think the day before maybe, OpenAI announced Sora. We also had and then this week we had the NVIDIA earnings that I think kind of blew expectations out of the water. And I think it's just so funny watching the like reflexivity of crypto AI tokens to broad like AI related news. So I think WorldCoin since Sora was announced, WorldCoin's up 3x because it's like connected to Sam Altman or whatever, and that's just great for narratives. I think Render since Sora came out, or maybe since the NVIDIA earnings announcement, Render's up 50% because it's like the decentralized OpenAI, and I think we just see this across the crypto AI coin ecosystem. So I always just find that.
Tell me these aren't meme coins. They're all meme coins. I mean,
they're all meme coins.
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah,
really. Go ahead.
We're seeing a lot of deals through C-Club Ventures that are at this intersection.
Yeah.
I think have done only a few deals there because I think a lot of it is smoke and mirrors right now, or at least hopes and dreams. Maybe that's a better way of putting it. Hopes and dreams.
Yeah.
But clearly there's like a reason to be bullish on the category and maybe fearful of like what the antithesis there is. Like if it is just OpenAI owning everything, that's kind of a pretty depressing thought. And so pretty big fan. We see, I think actually Delphi Digital came out with a really great report on the crypto AI intersection. And I think like looking at, decentralized compute, looking at sort of attribution, I think there's some really interesting places for crypto to play there, but I don't think we know where the chips are lying here yet. But there's a ton of money flowing into the space. Oh my God, so much money.
It's crazy.
I really wish I bought some AI tokens. Just what a silly miss, but.
Yeah, Peace, there's a tweet I think I dropped in there that I think just outlined kind of three buckets of crypto AI that I thought was pretty decent. I also saw this morning I think Derek tweeted that they've been working on like a 20-page crypto AI report, and knowing that they kind of most of these reports are all just not that one. They're all just they're like heavy kind of infrastructure focus, and knowing the way Collab approaches the world and their kind of consumer leaning tendencies. This one. So it's like AGI's default unbanked. The opportunity there is larger than the entire existing unbanked market. So using, crypto as like the bank account for AI, obvious opportunity. I think proof of humanity stuff, and then I think utilities were kind of what you're just talking about there. And then obviously this is just missing the entire consumer world. But I'm excited to see what Collab comes out with.
Least bullish on number 3 and the most bullish on number 1.
Yeah,
there. I think we like a lot of these sort of utility-based ones are. I mean, man, like just the scale and size of these centralized, what Facebook's able to do, what AWS is able to do, what NVIDIA is able to do is just like, I mean, it is a huge moat to exist there.
Tough to compete with, yeah.
I mean, I think it's an important thing to get built. I'm stoked that people are building it, but that's kind of where my take is.
Yeah, I think optionality is good, right? If they can get to a point where
we need optionality, exactly.
Functional, like we can't just be relying on
agreed.
on OpenAI for all our compute. Yeah. Next piece, you want to throw up a couple of lightning rounds?
Yeah, let's at least get one in here.
I mean, yeah, that's crazy. I mean, so when I saw this tweet, it really just triggered a thought around just how. I was talking to a founder yesterday who's trying to make a decision between building an Arbitrum or building an Optimism, and the approach to giving out grants and how they're distributing their tokens was like the main through line of that conversation, and really had shifted their interest into the OP ecosystem. And I think it was mostly just seeing how effective those types of, continuous airdrops, variety of types of airdrops, putting it into the hands of creators, real people, has really built like this really powerful brand within at least a strong subset of the market. I mean, clearly Arbitrum's going after with a slightly different strategy, still distributing a ton of money, but it's I think going to be a really interesting case study to look back at, like looking at this Arbitrum OP and then also looking at sort of Starknet and Blast. There's a whole lot of insights that we'll kind of get from that in the next little while. But I think the point here that we've seen the most is the number of teams that we are talking to that are saying, listen, we don't need money right now. We just want to join C Club for the other associated values. I mean, obviously we'll take your money as well. Because I got a big Arbitrum grant or because I got a big OP grant has been huge. And I think this like seeding of the next wave of tech coming on the backs of these L2 launches is like very, very much a thing. Yeah,
it's amazing. I think one of them was like, oh, we got like $100,000 grant a couple months ago, and it's now $400,000. So I think we're okay for a bit. It's
like sell some, please, God, sell some.
This was just a fun. I actually don't know the outcome. Well, so I mean, it reads as if Google's actually just sunsetting Gmail, and Gmail will no longer be supported. But I don't know if that's actually what they intended or that was the real outcome. But it's all I saw on Twitter for.
Is this a meme? I thought this was like a joke.
I think this was just a joke.
I actually have no idea. Oh, was it? Okay.
Yeah, this was just a joke, put forward by none other than Shlomes, the legend.
Shlomes started this.
Yeah. You can find it on knowyourmeme.com. It's great. But what's awesome is that today they announced that they are actually sunsetting Google Pay. Yeah. So it's like I don't know exactly what that means. It's like they still have a wallet or some features, like maybe Google Pay is a feature in your browser, but they're sunsetting some specific Android related wallet thing.
Interesting.
But I don't know, but amazing PR nightmare for them this week, though.
That's even better. I love that Shlom started it, because literally Google responded. They were like, "We're not sunsetting."
Of course, they're not sunsetting. The most successful email product in the world. We're going to sunset it. Give me a break. That's amazing.
Everyone was talking about it, so that's awesome. Good job.
The memes there we go. While the basic HTML version of Gmail is being sunsetted, all other accounts will remain active past October 20. Okay, that's even not that clear.
It's not helpful. Okay. It's really not helpful.
Say, hold on, go down to the Shlom's reply down right there. Say psych, right?
It's so good.
Oh my God. All right, we made it into the lightning round. Episode 17 of Internet Explorers. You can collect it on pods.media. We're super stoked to dive back into interviews again next week with teams. So if you're waiting to hear back from us, don't worry. We still have a lot of exploration and conversations ahead of ourselves. What else is happening? We got some fun stuff planned. Just stay tuned. If you're not on the C Club newsletter just yet, cclub.xyz, sign up for it there. Cheryl does a wonderful job every week of just putting out a vibey publication. Last newsletter episode was so good. It's so good. I think that the thing that if you're out here listening and you're building in the consumer crypto space and you've done something cool, you got an announcement, you have anything that's happened in your world, make sure you shoot us a message on Farcaster or Twitter. We want to keep including more and more and more of like the broader wins that are happening in this category as we pursue trying to make the consumer crypto category just look inevitable to other people as it does to us. Anything else, Josh?
No.
I'm gonna go
No.
breathe some fresh air. I love it. Amazing. Thanks for
else.
hanging out with us, and stoked to be back here again next Friday, 10 a.m. Pacific, 1 p.m. Eastern, for episode 18 of Internet Explorers.
Ciao.
Ciao, ciao.